Hello, Rob McNeilly here again, and welcome to the second video. In the first video, we explored together how we can think of hypnosis as an extension of the common everyday trance. So that instead of it being something weird that needs some special training, it can be something that's surprisingly familiar and so more accessible for clients and more approachable by us. And we had a look at how to create a session, possible session structure, so that we could find out about what someone liked, what they like about it, what is the problem that they want to do something about, how come that's a problem to them, and this magic question, what's missing for them? That if they had it, they would be okay. And we could see that if we know what we're looking for, then we've got a much better chance of finding it. And that we found that when we ask someone to get into their likes, to connect with that experience so that they can get focused and absorbed in doing something they like to do, then we have the criteria for what we're going to call hypnosis. And the thing about likes is that they are, when we do something we like to do, we are in a very resourceful situation. So we know what we're looking for, we know where to look for it in the like, so we can ask someone to go into hypnosis by focusing and getting absorbed in something that they like to do, and then look for the resource that's missing for them that has the problem be a problem. Then once they've learnt it, connected with it, then they can bring that over to the problem area, which then helps not so much to solve the problem, but more to dissolve it, so that it just disperses and things are okay. Then we can finish the session and ask someone when they come out of hypnosis what's different. Then we find out where we're at, what we're doing that's useful, and what else we might need to do that would be useful in the future. So the Erickson's contribution of linking hypnosis to the common everyday trance is something that I want to extend into the topics of today's video. When I learned hypnosis, I learned it in a formal, patriarchal, controlling kind of way where I told someone what to do. Look at this spot, relax your body, getting sleepier, you're going deeper, and so on. And it was a very formulaic kind of approach, very rigid, and it was pretty boring and not that effective. Effective sometimes, but not as much as I wanted. And also when I was learning hypnosis, I learned a whole series of experiences that were called hypnotic phenomena. Even the name itself is like, whoa, this sounds complicated. And I learned about the importance of knowing about dissociation, association, about age regression, age progression, about anesthesia, analgesia, all of these Greek-derived technical words that sounded pretty complicated. And there were some various techniques about how to create this and how to do that and how to do some age regression and so on. But if we look at these phenomena, so-called, as experiences, as an extension of the common everyday experiences that we all are familiar with, that again makes these experiences more accessible to clients and more approachable for us. So instead of using technical words like association and dissociation, I like to think of whether we're connected or disconnected. And we can all, in our everyday life, notice that if we get connected, for example, with watching a movie, we become disconnected from our surroundings, we become disconnected from our body, and we just stay connected to the movie that we're watching. If we have some physical pain, drop a brick on our toe, we become very connected with our foot and very disconnected from the rest of our body. We become disconnected from our past, from our future, and all we've got is the connection with our foot. So in that way, we have multiple experiences of being connected with something which as we connect with that, we become disconnected from something else. And so it's very easy to become, when someone, for example, has chronic pain, we'll explore this in the third video, then there's a tendency for someone to be very connected with the possibility, the memory, and the anticipation of the pain, with the sensations. And if someone can be attached, associated, connected with their pain, then they can also be, they have that capacity to be connected with something. They can connect with something else, like their comfort, like the remembered comfort, like the anticipated comfort, and so on. So an ability to connect with one thing, which can cause a problem, is also a resource that can be used to connect with something else, the solution. If someone is overly connected with something, if they're obsessing about something, then their ability to disconnect from their body when they drop a brick on their toe, that ability to disconnect is a facility that they have, and they can use it to disconnect with some thought, obsessive, compulsive behavior, and so on. So connection is connection, disconnection is disconnection. We know about that. So then we can introduce the idea. If someone is obsessing, it's not going to be very helpful to say, oh, well, you can disconnect from that and don't worry about it and just put it out of your mind. Okay, all right, but how are we going to do that? But if we introduce the idea of connection and disconnection by giving common everyday examples, we're very, very excellent in our ability to disconnect from a whole lot of things. We are very skilled through our everyday experiences with connecting with a whole lot of things. So if we introduce the everydayness of what we're going to explore, then that allows the exploration to have an easy beginning, and then it just can build on that. If we think about age regression, going back in time, like Doctor Who, getting into the TARDIS, and we're going to do some time travelling. And it's like, whoa, this sounds pretty weird. But who hasn't had the experience of looking at a photograph when we're in grade school and thinking, oh, I remember this person, oh, I remember that teacher, I remember this. So we look at a photo, and then as we look at it, there are certain connections that we make. We start to not only remember the people, some of the events around that time, but part of our experience is as if we are back there. That's part of the remembering. So if we have something like looking at a photo, or you might go on a holiday and bring back a souvenir, and you look at that souvenir and you say, oh, that was that place that we went to, that was this, or whatever. If we take something like that, and then we say, okay, here's this photograph. As you look at the photograph, start to focus on some part of the photograph. Maybe one of the kids next to you or behind you, or the teacher. And then as you become more absorbed in that, there can be an increased texture of your experience triggered by the photograph, and enhances the experience as if you are actually there. So the so-called age regression is really just a memory that is enriched with greater texture by focus and absorption, so that we can then be more in the experience as it was. Age progression. We can look forward to the future. Anyone can do that. And we think, oh, isn't it going to be great on the weekend, or isn't this holiday coming up, or when Christmas comes, or when it's my birthday? Kids know about this. So we know about anticipation. And if we take something that someone is looking forward to as an everyday occurrence, and we ask this person to focus on that anticipated experience, and then become more absorbed in it, there is more texture around the imagined anticipated future, and it becomes more real. So, for example, if someone says they've always been fat, they want to lose weight, and they don't see how it's possible, if we ask them to imagine time has passed, they're in the future, and they've lost the weight they no longer need, and notice how it is to be like that, and start to focus on that, get absorbed in that, and start to experience that, they can have in the present an experience as if they are in the future that they would prefer. And it starts to become an embodied experience, not something that they're just hoping for, but something that they have at least a sense of. So it becomes more real for them. When we will be working with people who've got chronic pain and they want some help, there are two aspects to pain. We'll get into this in more detail with the third video, but there's the sensations and there's the botheredness. Some sensations are really strong and troublesome, and others are not so strong, but they are not so much intense, but we suffer from them. If you get a speck of dust in your foot, in your sock, you don't feel it. If you get a speck of dust in your eye, you really know about it. So there are these two aspects. And I learned originally about anesthesia, which is not feeling, and analgesia, which is not being bothered by. But we have all had a lifetime of experience of not noticing sensations that are noticeable. A person can wear glasses, and if they were to attend, for example, I can feel now the sensation of the glasses on the bridge of my nose behind my ear. I'm standing up, and if I choose to, I can notice the sensations of my feet, in my socks, in my shoes, on the floor. And those are sensations which are very noticeable. And most of my life, and this applies to all of us, we are completely unaware of those sensations. We are expert at not noticing sensation. Now, not noticing glasses, not noticing your feet is not the same as not noticing severe pain. But if you suddenly say, oh, let's ignore all this severe pain, that's a big jump. But if we start with something simple, small, everyday, something that we all experience, that's something real we can then start to extend and expand into being less aware or even unaware of something more severe. Not being bothered by sensations or sounds. Some people have a ringing in their ears, tinnitus. And some people say it drives them crazy. Of course, the more you try and ignore it, the louder it gets. But we've all had the experience of having certain sounds that are around, excuse me, that can be bothersome, but also somehow they don't worry us. The sound of rain on the roof, for some people, will keep them awake because they don't want it. It's awful. It's too noisy. And for other people, the sound of the rain on the roof is very soothing. It's not only not bothersome, it's welcomed. So just a simple example of not being bothered. You can be bothered by the rain, or you can notice that it's there and not be bothered by it. An example like that, it's going to be different for different people. But when we find something that's familiar as an idea, we can start with that, and then that can be expanded. Another hypnotic phenomenon that I learned, which was very, very technical, very, very advanced, was that of amnesia, another technical Greek word. Amnesia, it's just really just a fancy word for forgetting. So, I don't know, am I the only person that's had the experience of coming into a room and thinking, what did I come in here for? And go to the supermarket. Now, what was it that I wanted to get here? I parked my car somewhere. Where did I park it? Where have I put my car keys? we can all forget things. So by introducing the notion of the common everyday ability to forget things, that's a start. It's like a toe in the door, and then we can expand that possibility into forgetting anything that is not helpful to be remembered. So that if someone, for example, is haunted by flashbacks from a trauma, and they say, some people say, I wish I could just get it out of my head. I wish I could just forget about it. Okay. So we know about forgetting. So that's something we can start with. It's something that we can play with and expand by focus and absorption, but starting from something common, starting from something everyday, starting from something familiar, and then off we go. We can expand from there. So if you're interested, I want to offer an exercise now to play with. And if you're interested to be part of this, then all you need to do is to be curious. And if you don't want to participate in this, then, turn the video off or do something else. It's not a required component of this. But if you're interested, could you think of something that's been troubling you, something that's been annoying you, something that you wanted to do something about for a while? And then, if you would, simply imagine that time has passed and whatever was troubling you is no longer a problem. It's been resolved, it's been fixed, somehow it's still there but not bothering you, or it's gone. I don't know what it can be, of course, I can't know. But if you can just imagine that somehow over time, a week, a month, a year, 10 years, I don't know, but some time has passed and that problem is no longer a problem. It's gone, it's resolved, it's not bothering you. Somehow it's okay and you're okay, and the problem that was problematic is no longer a problem. So if you could take a moment to just hold that possibility, and then as you're doing this, to start to focus on some aspect of the experience. Is it something that you can see? Is it something that you can hear or feel or sense or do? Whatever it is, if you could take a moment to allow yourself to begin to focus on some aspect of this experience, this future experience, which as you experience it can become more and more as if it's happening right now. And then if you allow yourself to become more absorbed in the experience, whatever it is, only as absorbed as you do, only in whatever way you happen to be absorbed. And then as you allow yourself to do this, you don't need to notice that there are some various physiological changes. You probably altered your breathing subtly. Your eyelids are probably blinking differently, or you may have closed them. It's very likely that there's been some smoothing out of your face, some stillness in your body. These things can happen, and you don't need to make an effort for them to happen, and you don't even need to notice that they have happened. So that then as you allow yourself to be in this imagined experience, and by focusing on whatever you're focusing on, by letting yourself be as absorbed as you happen to be in the experience, and you're able to experience it more and more as if it really is happening. my invitation is for you to allow yourself to just be with this for a time. Just sit with it. Let it sit within you. Let it be within you. Let it find its way to whatever part of your experience is going to be helpful for you, so that you can get to know it, so that you can learn it, so that you can have the experience within yourself as a bodily, felt experience. And having this as an experience is something that the more familiar you become with it, the easier it is to find your way back to it. The easier it is for you to get to it. The easier it is for you to realize the experience. And so my invitation is, in the experience that you're in, somehow have a sense of it. And then sometime later, you could find yourself remembering it, recalling it, re-experiencing it, maybe even dreaming it. And as you become more familiar with the experience, that experience can be a part of you. It's portable, that you can have and that you can make use of. And so now, if you would just take a little time to leave this experience behind you, become more aware of your surroundings, and you get reconnected with your feet and where you are in this time and this place. And then to ask yourself, or notice, what's different for you now? What's changed? When you look at your experience now compared with how it was before we started this. And if you like, you could leave a note about what your experience is, what's different, what you see as useful for this. And also, if you would like to play with this or any of these experiences with your clients, with your family, with your friends, with their permission, of course, then it would be nice if you could leave a comment. So thank you for being willing to be in this experience, for attending to this opportunity. And I think it would be just lovely if you could give it a try and see what variations that you can create as a response to what I'm saying, or even the same as what I'm saying, or perhaps even the opposite of what I'm saying, but making your own translation. So thanks for being in this with me in this second video. And in the third video, I'm going to speak about how we can apply some of these specific situations to various clinical circumstances when we're dealing with anxiety, with depression, pain, post-trauma, relationships, and so on, and see how these can apply. So thank you for being part of this, and look forward to being with you in the next video.